my God. Good morning.
Good
First of
morning.
all, everybody needs to have a hype man like Tyrone Walker,
I need
huh?
my partner in crime.
Come on, y'all. Come on. Y'all give it up for him. First of all,
Switch these to me, then?
we had the incomparable Judy Reese Morris, who talked about yesterday. Did we not have a time? Did we not have a time yesterday? Listen, I was one of those people. I was here at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I left at 8:30 at night. But listen, we had a phenomenal time. I want to give it up for the Urban League of Louisiana. Come on, y'all. Judy Reese Morris. This is a Black woman-led organization, right? And she has got, to use the words of Tyrone, she got a fire team, right? And so Tyrone B. Walker, I'm gonna use your whole middle name. I'm not gonna give him the whole middle name, but Tyrone B. Walker and his team for this policy conference, oh my God, it has been phenomenal. Listen, yesterday we packed and unpacked some stuff yesterday. Judy already talked about what the plenaries look like, but I want to share for the panelists what our breakout sessions were about, right? So we had criminal justice reform, food deserts, culture wars, policing. We had several sessions on policing, chronic diseases, Black history, workforce, DEI. We talked about it all. And then today, we've got more, right? So listen, we have so much, we have so many dots on the board. For those that are here today, this is why this panel is here today. We want them to connect the dots for us. Because everybody, how many of y'all went to the breakout sessions yesterday, right? So now, these are the people that are in the room, right? These are the people, not just in the room, they're behind the curtain. They were out here this morning behind the curtain, but every day at the Capitol, they're here behind the curtain, right? And so they have a very, very unique position, right? And so for the next hour, roughly, I want to get behind the curtain, if we will, right? Behind the curtain. So I want to start with, to my left, Representative Jason Hughes. I want to pitch this out to you. So there is a Broadway show that says, no one really knows how the game is played, that how they are the trade, how the sausage gets made. We just assume that it happens. But no one else is in the room where it happens, right? So one of the things that I love about you is that you've only been a legislator since, 2020, right? But you've learned how to move and navigate in the room. What happens behind the scenes? Tell us what happens. That legislators, how they must balance in moving legislation that you wish more advocates out here and nonprofits who lobby would have a greater appreciation for.
Absolutely. Well, Jay, first of all, let me thank you for your leadership, advocacy. You've just been absolutely amazing. To Judy Reese Morris, to Tyrone Walker, to the entire team at the Urban League of Louisiana, thank you for your fearless leadership. And to be on this stage with my colleagues, Vincent Pierre, who is wrapping up his tenure as the chair of the Louisiana Legislative Black Caucus, very successful 2-year tenure. Thank you, Brother Chairman. And if you ever opened a dictionary and looked up the term boss lady, you'll see Vanessa and Delisha. They are the two newest members of the Louisiana Legislative Black Caucus, but when I tell you they hit the ground running and really stirred things up and caused some good trouble, it's really a blessing to serve alongside them.
Although we just tried to bully Vincent.
And it didn't work.
And it didn't work, so I don't know.
So I will say, first of all, members of the Louisiana Legislative Black Caucus, all of us are Democrats. And let me be clear, the Black Caucus is a nonpartisan group. So if we had black Republicans that were in the legislature, they would be welcome to join the organization. But we're in the minority at the end of the day. Only 37 members in the Black Caucus. In the House, we only have 33 Democrats, 71 Republicans, and 1 independent. So relationships matter if you want to get things done. It takes 53 votes in the House or 70 if it's a 2/3 vote to get something passed, and then you got to go to the Senate. And so one thing that I tell my colleagues, it's okay to battle hard. And I think you can look at videos of any of us. We take the mic, we battle hard. We go to committee, we battle hard. But it's important that unless a colleague makes something personal, not to take it personal. You can fight hard on the floor, and then when you gavel out at the end of the day, that's when it's really important to get to know each other, where they're from, how they grew up, why they think the way they do. I have had colleagues to tell me. I have visited many of my Republican colleagues' district. I have had Republicans to look me in my eye and say, look, I hear what you're saying, but you have to realize I never grew up around black people. And so we have to take that into consideration why they think the way they do. But a lot of things happen outside of the committee room, off the House floor. You know, that's when, I hate to say, the deals are being cut. But it's important, you know, and advocates bring a very important and unique perspective. But one thing that I can't impress upon enough to our advocates who are partners in this work at the end of the day, it's important to follow your bill author. For us, it's a game of numbers. So if I know going in a committee that I have the votes to get something out, and I ask you to waive and not go to the table and testify, please follow my lead. Because sometimes you only have a brief window to keep your bill alive or to see your bill die. And I can't tell you the number of times that I have seen members of the public go to the table with the best of intentions, but a bill that was on cruise control to get out, it died because of public testimony. And so I can't impress upon folks enough, it's a partnership at the end of the day, but you have to trust and follow your bill author.
Chime in here to our other legislators. What do you want other advocates and organizations to know about behind the scenes, the things that you bring to the table for them on all of the various issues that they're dealing with?
I think I'll add that I think the misconception is that we are creating a new will. It's the same will. It's the same will from the 50s and the 60s. It's just painted a different color. So things are being presented differently. I think what I can say about every member up here is that we have the respect of our colleagues. So they may not like what I'm saying, when I'm saying it, or how I'm saying it, but they're going to respect me. So if I go to them, like with the expungement bill that I got passed this session, I can have a respectful conversation on a bill that had not gotten out before, and that was something I was able to successfully get out. The reality of it is that we are in the minority. The reality of it is we don't have to be in the minority. So where the public places us when we don't vote is you put us in the minority, right? The reality of that is when we vote, we win. That's no other way. When we vote, we win. So if you want more bills around criminal justice reform passed, if you want our rights as women to be respected and upheld, if you want the rights of the LGBTQ community to be respected, if you want better education for our children, you gotta vote. There is no other way around it. Then our jobs are easier, right? Sometimes you get elected, you get a phone call, well, what you doing? What you doing to help me? How about that? Right? I can only do so much.
Yeah.
Even with all that I've done in the less than 2 years, I had someone come up to me yesterday and say, well, you got sidewalks for the school. What about the rest of the block? Girl, if you don't get away from me. Seriously? I bring millions of dollars in where children are now not going to have to walk up General Meyer to get to school. They're going to have a sidewalk that they can walk on. And that's what you bring to me after a year and a half? I don't think so, right? I'm putting it back on y'all. You want more than 33 in the House? Help me get more than 33 in the House. We cannot do this by ourselves.
And I would add, if I
Go ahead.
can, knowledge is power. We all know that. So for advocates, when there are bills and when there's information that you need to get before your particular legislatures, be careful about who you select to bring your bill.
Yes.
Choose individuals that will do the study and do the work. I don't want you to drop a bill on me without having given me all the information that I need to stand 10 toes down at a mic and defend the bill. Because the truth of the matter is, my colleagues want to hear from the author of the bill. They want to know that you know what your bill is doing, who it impacts, who it affects, all important. Be careful who you decide to do business with, and make sure there are people you can do business with that can bring your business to the floor and defend it.
And I love what you're saying right there, right? You got to make sure who's carrying the water for you,
Yes,
right? And
yes.
so that's why it's so important to have the caucus, right? Where you can have real conversations to say, listen, that's not the right person, right? To carry this, maybe you need to go over here. And I think that those are the kinds of conversations that we need to have in real time on all of our issues, right?
I agree.
And sometimes, though, advocates have to be strategic.
Yes.
It's not always advantageous for the caucus or a caucus member to be front and center carrying the bill.
Come on.
I tell advocates all the time when they come to me and say, look, it's a controversial bill. Hughes, we want you to carry this bill. I say, you know what? I think it's more advantageous for you to go find a Republican office, and I'll go help you find it. And so, you know, it's about being strategic and getting the win at the end of the day.
Because that goes back to what Representative Boyd just talked about, which is you don't have the numbers right now.
Correct.
Right?
Right.
And so if you don't, you have to be strategic around who's carrying it. Go ahead.
And listen, I totally agree with all of what my colleagues have said, but I definitely want to indeed, before we go too far, thank the Urban League for being such great advocates.
Yes.
Because I can honestly tell you that when I became chair, we did road shows as a caucus, but we also was involved with the Urban League in the road show.
Yes.
And that's how we were able to find out a whole lot about what's going on in our communities. Listen, I had a bill, it's called Ban the Box on College Applications. Every university in the state of Louisiana was against that bill. Every university. But thanks to an advocate and the advocates that helped me, and I'm sure you guys are very familiar with Sharita Martin, who works here in New Orleans, and the vote came in and said, listen, Rep. Pierre, we want to rescue you. We want you to see what we see through their lens. And they had Tulane University provide data and information that was needed. And what we found out from the advocates and from the vote is that the majority of the people that were being arrested were students that were already at the university. It was not students that were trying to get into the university. So we were able to work that bill. I had to take the bill in and out of committee some 2 to 3 times. But because of the advocates and the Urban League included, we were able to move that bill unanimously throughout the committee as well as the House floor. And now students and individuals that have committed minor crimes can now enter the university. And it's because of the advocates that we've had in place. So I've served 12 years. I've seen so many different ways in which we can provide and present bills. But I can honestly tell you that I think Representative Hughes said it best, is that we've got to ensure that we pick the right individuals that is passionate about the issue. Now, I'm a college, I worked for a university, not a university, but community college, and I understood the issues as it relates to ban the box. As I dealt with individuals at the workforce offices telling me that they were trying to get into schools and could not because they had a minor offense, and because the application states, have you been arrested? So I was passionate about it, I saw it, I lived it, and that's what we need to do as caucus members and our members when we shop individuals to carry bills. So I just wanted to share that insight.
If I could add something to that, Jay,
Yeah.
because I keep picking on y'all. That's my job up here. Because what Rep. Hughes and Rep. Pierre are saying is very, very important. Why is that important? Because not enough of you are getting involved. I'm picking on y'all again. We had a race recently with less than 9% turnout for a state rep seat. I got 50 phone calls about who we were supporting. Well, that's who qualified. We got to support somebody, or the Republican is going to get in, right? If you want better representation, hello, somebody. Maybe look at yourself. Put the mirror up in front of you. We have to choose and work with what we have, right? The three people that qualified, and by the way, we got a rock star out of that race, Alonzo Knox. I don't want to, Knox has been a superstar. We're glad that we had him. But we had what we had because that is who qualified. If you want better representation, get involved in your communities, right? This is not a charge for one individual. We all have to be involved to get wins. We all have to be involved to get wins. We all have to work together to get wins.
So we talking about wins, right? And we want to win. We like to win, right? Let's talk about the wins and how you actually get those wins as legislators. What is that model, right? That maybe some of your caucus members have been able to get over the goal line, right? Some of the things I'm thinking about, Representative St. Pierre talked about ban the box, right? I love that song.
Me too.
Yeah, one of my favorites of all time. Ban the box, right? You just talk about ban the box. But we talked about criminal justice reform, right? Those were some of the wins, and those were redistricting, right? Those are some of the wins that you all have been able to yield. How did you do it? Give me what's the secret sauce? What's the recipe? What's the system or the model that all of these advocates in the room can now apply to the issues that they are pushing?
I think relationships matter. They do. Relationships matter. I think having a word matters. I think earning the respect of your colleagues. We were able to bring 5 regular bills. I got 3 of my 5 out successfully, which was, controversial, I guess. So relationships matter across the board, especially when you have a supermajority like we do. So, you want to highlight the wins, the relationships with that, but sometimes party lines matters as well. So the other 2 things that were very important to me, we couldn't get out. I had, for the exception for rape and incest, we had nearly 300 green cards in support, over 100 emails, Rep. LaFleur, in support. It was red and white day at the Capitol, so we had Deltas sitting on the floor. They had to open up an overflow room, and that bill still did not get out. Why did it not get out? Because the faces of those sitting on the committee, women included. So we celebrate wins, we do. We talked about redistricting. I was able to hold my district intact, but the reality of it is that we would do 6 additional House seats that we didn't get. 6 additional seats that we did not get. So I like celebrating the wins and talking about the wins, but we got to keep the reality of what's going on so you stay engaged and understand the battles that we have. So that means that you're still underrepresented as a race of Black and brown people in Louisiana. The Senate was due 3 additional seats. Bessie was due another seat. The Supreme Court was due another seat. Congress was due another seat. We're underrepresented across the board, right? So can I stand and say, yay, I was able to hold District 102 together? I can, but the reality of it is statewide, we're underrepresented.
I'll just piggyback and say, not all wins are necessarily won at the legislature. And redistricting is a great example of that.
Yeah.
Redistricting is actually probably my proudest moment from a caucus perspective in my 4 years of being in the
Yes.
legislature. And, you know, kudos to Chairman Pierre for really, holding the caucus together. But this is a great example of partnership between the caucus and advocates.
Yeah.
I mean, advocates, number one, had us just super prepared to take the floor with the facts, with the data. And, you know, we were not just talking for our health. We knew that we were facing an uphill battle and that the fight was probably not going to be won in the legislature, but in the court. And so we needed to build a record for court. And so every word that came out of our mouth mattered. And it was really advocates, our partner organizations that really prepared us for a time such as that. Redistricting got so contentious, particularly around creating the second black congressional district. One day, the Black Caucus, we left the floor, rightfully so. And when my Republican colleagues, who I love and respect, decided that they had enough and wanted to adjourn, we brought that to a halt. We brought the floor to a halt. We say, we're not going to go anywhere. We're going to delay this as long as possible. So we united and used every tool at our disposal. And even though we did not win in the legislature, we've won in district court. We've won at the Fifth Circuit. The United States Supreme Court has ruled on the Alabama case, which has implications for us. You saw the Alabama legislature just told the federal courts to go to hell, and the appellate court told them to go to hell back. They said, we're going to draw these districts because black people deserve a second black congressional district in Alabama. And we're confident that we're going to get that second black congressional district here in Louisiana. And I think if you looked at the gubernatorial debate last night, even the most conservative contenders conceded that we're going to get that district. So we did not win in the legislature, but we won in the court because we built a record. And then secondly, look, we had this awful attack on the LGBTQ plus community during the most recent legislative session. That was nothing. Look, I'm a Southern Baptist at the end of the day. At the end of the day, it's my job to represent people. It's not my job to legislate my religion.
Yes.
That bill was the biggest gimmick I've ever seen in my life because it would not do, excuse my expression, that bill will not do a damn thing to protect children.
Right.
That bill was intended to be divisive, and it was hateful. It was one of the most hateful bills I have ever seen in my 20 years of working in that building. But even though we lost in the legislature, other states, Arkansas, Indiana, have won in the courts. And I'm confident because we will take that fight to court and we're going to win. So just because you don't always win immediately in the legislature, it's important to build the record for the courts.
Absolutely.
And let me add on
Go ahead.
to what, because I love what
Representative
you're saying, and it's important that you realize we may not always win on that floor in that place. But you can give us greater odds of winning if we win at the ballot box. Let's go back to the reasons why we are sitting here. Somebody voted for us, somebody put us here. I hear when I'm out all the time, oh, the voters are apathetic. Voter apathy is the issue. Black and brown people. The one thing, the one privilege we cannot have is voter apathy. It's not enough of us in the rooms and at the tables to allow ourselves to be apathetic about a race. I don't care if it's a race for dog catcher. You have to show up at the polls and you have to vote. We say to you on this day and every day, send us help. Increase our numbers. Where there is an opportunity, I'm going to be partisan, to elect a Democrat, to elect someone who will be down with you, to elect someone who understands what it is to be you, who understands your community, and throw in a little Baptist love, you and your people, that's who you elect.
Yes.
If I had one, I'd throw a head up.
Yeah.
Send us help. If you want us to win, it takes more of us in the spaces to win.
Yeah.
Talk to people. When they say to you, oh, my vote doesn't matter, talk about Roe v. Wade. Talk about the stolen seats on the United States Supreme Court. When we decided there was a lesser of two evils to talk about when we decided to vote for president. We sat it out.
Yes.
Democracy is at its knees because we decided not to go vote. We have got to stop doing that. We've got to let young people know why they have to vote.
Yeah.
That there is some shade that we have grown to know, to feel, that we don't have anymore.
Right.
I was telling my colleagues, there isn't a difference, no difference between my reading the papers and the headlines in the 50s, 60s, 70s, when the fight was really on, right? To what I'm reading in 2023.
That's serious.
Send help.
Yeah.
And we need, and she is so,
Yeah. Yeah.
I totally agree with my colleague. And as you can see, this is the bench. These individuals are going to be the next leaders. They are the leaders for the Black Caucus. And I can tell you, I served under Bobby Jindal. I can tell you that when I first got elected, I had my head was black. Now I look like a Dalmatian. Because of the ill wills that we suffered during those times.
Yeah.
Folks were getting locked up in record numbers. Hospitals were being tortured. We had all kinds of issues that occurred. If we don't activate ourselves during this election, shame on us.
Yeah.
Shame on us. We need to be out there telling a friend to tell a friend that you need to go vote. If you watch any of the debate last night, a child needs to make a decision on the LGBT issue and whatever, but a woman can't make a decision on what they want to do with their bodies.
Right.
That's upsetting. So I just want you all to know, as you can see, I'm very passionate, and I think my colleagues and the folks that we're leaving here, you're in good hands with the caucus members, but you guys are gonna have to help them. You're gonna have to knock on doors and let folks know that they have to register to vote for one and go out and vote for another.
And then with the resources we have right now, it's easier than the 50s and the 60s, right? That's where you were headed, Rep. LaFleur. We have cell phones. My call to action at the end of the meeting yesterday was, when you leave here, I need you texting everybody in your phone about this. I can't stand hearing one more person tell me, one, they didn't realize an election was coming, two, they didn't know a black man was running. I can't handle that. So the same call to action for you guys, text everybody in your phone. Early voting starts September 30th. Then give them the call to action. We don't even have to do what King did and Malcolm did with traveling from parish to parish. Pick up your cell phone. Shoot an email out. Use your social media. It's important. I'm going to tell you how important it is. We were blessed to have a Democratic governor who had the power of the pen. So some of the bad stuff we were able to stop with the Democratic governor. If we have a supermajority House and Senate and a Republican in that seat, whether it's Jeff Landry or Wagaspack, y'all will be living like Florida. If you're outraged by what you see in Florida, get ready.
Yeah.
Right? We still have time. We don't need King to come back and Malcolm to come back. He and all us right now.
That's right.
Yeah.
We have them. We all need to be our own individual King and Malcolm within our own community. You don't have to be a Rep. LaFleur or Jason Hughes or Rep. Pierre. You don't have to be any of these people.
Yeah.
You could be right where you are and still let your voice carry within your own sphere of influence.
Yeah.
And pay attention.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Pay attention to what your candidates are saying. The front runner for Louisiana governor has declared one of the first things he wants to do is have a special session.
Yes.
And that special session has nothing to do with the budget, nothing to do with education, nothing to do with health care. He wants a special session on crime.
Yeah.
If you don't pay attention, you don't get on those cell phones, because I'm talking to advocates, and let people know
Yeah.
the dog whistles are there. I don't even call him that.
Yeah.
He said it.
Yeah.
A special session on crime. I sit on criminal justice. Hardest committee I've ever served on. Being new, I get that. But the hard part is sitting there with individuals who only show up because they've stacked the committee. They've done no study. They've not read any bill. They're just to vote. They have a sheet that tells them how to vote. But they have the power and they have the numbers. So they can just show up. He can put 2 people that had no reason to be on the criminal committee, criminal justice committee, making decisions that affect our children. If you need to get people and youth to understand why they need to vote, you got a man that wants to be your governor.
And I
Doesn't
just
care about health.
I just want to put the crime session in perspective, because I know we all care about crime. But this is not a session to try to rehabilitate people and make communities safer. This is a special session to roll back the investments in criminal justice
Absolutely.
reform.
Yes.
Yeah.
And one of the top priorities that they want to pursue, right now Louisiana has only one mechanism of execution, and that's by lethal injection. And right now we don't have access to the drugs. One of the top bills is to add more mechanisms, whether it's a firing squad or the electric chair or other mechanisms to execute folks. So we really need to be vigilant regarding the special session on crime.
With the intent to roll back everything that John Bell was put in place with regards to, well, not just John Bell, but the House and the Senate as well, with regards to criminal justice reform. Because we are money, right? Every individual that gets arrested and goes to Angola, that's money, right? So with the plans that the legislature before I got there and John Bell did was roll back, and they're looking at the money that they lost from not having those individuals in jail. So his purpose will be to unfold all of that had been done successfully over the last 8 years, because they want the money back. And they mean to get that by any means necessary. By any means, if y'all not afraid, I'm telling you, you're not paying attention.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Don't be confused and misled, and let your focus be on these little brush fires that they put in. Please keep your eye on your house, because the house is coming down.
Yeah. Yeah.
The house is coming down.
And what I'm really hearing all of you say is, yes, everybody has to vote, but we also have to inform people of why
Yes.
it is important. We always see, literature out there, vote, 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 vote. But many people, right, they say, listen, I've been poor, the generation before me and my family is poor, the generation before. So in their minds, they say, why does it matter to me, right? And what you all are able to see is that things could be a lot worse.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I say to that? Do you want to stay poor?
Yeah.
Do you want
Come on.
more and better for your children and for the next generations? Because if you do,
Yeah.
you need to go vote.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you need to watch the people that you send to the House, watch the people that you send to the Senate. We had to fight for early childhood dollars, for seats. You know why we had to fight for that? Primarily because knowledge is power. We don't want to educate these children early in the process, because if we educate them early in the process, the trajectory for their family and for their lives goes up, right? So what are we going to do? Cut them. And if you think about it, the only reason we got extra dollars is because we had JB in the office, Governor John Bell Edwards. That's why the ballot matters. That's why your vote matters. Watch what they say. Because I'm going to always say, as it relates to budgets, you don't tell me your priorities with this. You tell me your priorities and your budgets and the bills that you're bringing, and even so, in the ones that you are objecting to and voting against.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Pay attention to what's being done, because the thing is, in their minds, it's being done to you. And we can't see that.
Yeah.
You have to have conversations with folk, with the youth, elderly, anybody who has the audacity to say, my vote doesn't matter. Recently in BR, 2 votes mattered.
Yeah.
Because those 2 votes sent a person to the bench to be judged.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So have that conversation. Yeah, your vote matters.
Yeah.
Because every vote matters.
Yeah.
And I think she's hit it right on the head about, you talk about the youth and trying to get them acclimated to why they should vote. I can tell you from the years serving since 2012, we brought in minimum wage. Since 2012, that bill was filed both in the Senate and in the House, numerous occasions, and we're still not able to change that mindset that folks cannot survive on $7.25 an hour.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when they talk about why, that's a major reason why we should at least consider it. It's not even a cost of, you can't even live on $7.25 an
Yeah.
hour.
Yeah.
So,
Which
all
then
of
feeds
those
into
things
the
are
crime
part-
that we
that
see.
we have to ensure to the younger generation and our generation
Yeah.
that if you don't go out and tell folks of these individuals that are working
Yeah.
behind the scenes, as we spoke about earlier, because we're getting ready to start a whole new session, and we're making decisions now of who's going to be the chair of these committees.
Yeah.
And if you don't know how powerful these chairmen are in these committees, shame on you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
On-
can assure you, none of them are going to look like you and I.
Yeah. On that note, though, so as we already talked about, we are going to have a new governor, right? We'll also have new legislative leaders, at least in the state house, right? Can you preview what we should expect from new leaders in the governor's mansion and in the legislature that will inform all of our planning for next year? And then I have I want to dig a little bit deeper, because I don't want to just look at in the next year. I also want to be thinking what's happening 5 years, 10 years
Yeah, because the
ahead.
reality of it is this election cycle will affect the next 4 years,
Come on.
period,
That's
right?
Yeah.
So what it's going to look like is going to depend on how you vote.
Yeah.
We have statewide elections going on. You can't just be concerned on what's going on in New Orleans. You have to make sure that your family and friends and other parishes, Lake Charles, Monroe, Alexandria, Shreveport, if you're in sororities, if you're in fraternities, 100 black men and women, all these chapters are aware that what happens in the next 4 years will be determined October 14th.
And I think it says, I'm going to say this, that's what I call her, y'all, I'm not disrespectful. It is more than determines the next 4 years, right? It determines who's sitting in the seat for the next 4 years. Let's think about what happened in the presidential election. He was only there 4 years.
Yes.
But he's done generational damage.
Yes.
Amen.
Generational damage.
Amen.
So let's think along those lines, and let's talk to everyone along those lines. You may not be in the office, but for 4 years. But if you put him there for 4 years, the laws that are on the books
Will take
last
years to
so
undo.
much
Yes,
longer
will take years
than
to undo.
4 years.
And to further put it into perspective, so let's just have an honest conversation for a second. This is what's on the line for the next governor, next legislature, for the 4.7 million residents of the state of Louisiana. And to Rep. LaFleur's point, the consequences will go beyond 4 years. Medicaid expansion
Yes.
is on the line.
Come on.
I want to remind folks, Medicaid expansion is not codified in law. Governor Edwards expanded Medicaid with the stroke of a pen via executive order. The next governor can undo that with the stroke of a pen. And even if they don't completely roll it back, they can make it far more complicated for people to have access to health care. So that's on the line. Number 2, higher education. Governor appoints every member of every higher education management board. And for the first time in my life, and I've been in state government now for 20 years, I have never seen higher education boards more diverse than I see them now.
Yes.
I have never seen as many black people and women on LSU's board,
Yep.
and UL's board, and LCTCS's board,
Yep.
and the Board of Regents
Yep.
than we see now. We have never seen a black woman leading higher education in the state of Louisiana like we see right now.
Yes, yes.
I remember the dark days. I worked in higher ed when the cuts were deep, when enrollment dipped, when we were balancing budgets on the backs of students, when college was becoming so unaffordable that students were being pushed out of higher education.
Yes.
So that's on the line. We're talking about people going to vote. It can become much more complicated to vote with legislation that they are trying to push. And if you have the right combination of legislators and the governor and the governor's mansion, can become deeply complicated for folks to vote.
Yeah.
Small businesses, access to capital. The list goes on. And this will be consequences for a generation. And the other big thing that the next legislature is going to be faced with, right now we have a 0.45 sales tax. That's somewhat controversial. And we have to figure out how we're going to deal with that because that expires in 2025. And we have to be very careful by just saying, you know what, we want that to go away and life is going to be grand. Because when it wasn't on the books before, we literally saw hospitals across this state closing.
Yes.
The reason we're in such a mental health crisis is because 8 years ago, just about every mental health facility in the state of Louisiana, the doors were shut.
Yes.
So a lot is on the line this election cycle. And if we don't get this right, or if we stay home, or if we say, oh, we're just so uninspired, I don't want to vote for anybody, we're going to have to suffer the consequences of our actions. And so number one, it starts with us. And it's incumbent upon us to get on the phone. I will be honest. After the special election, because most people don't realize your voting record is public.
Yes.
Not who you voted for, but your voting record is public. I had a pretty frank conversation with members of my family. Because to see members of my family on the list of people who did not vote, and I'm a policymaker, was not only embarrassing, but policymaker aside, the fact that you have the opportunity to vote, you have the right to vote. I see my family at every second line, wetting, social organization,
Yeah.
but you didn't take 5 seconds to go vote is inexcusable to me. And so I started with chastising my own family, not my constituents. I said, I'm going to start with my family first. And so now I'm going to put it upon myself to ensure that my nieces and my family is taking advantage of early voting.
Yes.
If all the Southern Jags and Grambling Tigers in the room,
Come on. Homecoming is coming.
homecoming
Homecoming.
falls on election day.
Yep.
Yeah.
And don't
So
think
we
that
have
wasn't
to
on
make
purpose.
sure that we early vote. Ladies and gentlemen, with early voting, with absentee voting, there is absolutely
Yeah.
no good excuse
Yeah.
for not going cast our vote.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And do know this, piggybacking on the Southern Grambling thing, almost every HBCU or every college, whatever you want to call it, homecoming is on election day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Think about that for a second,
Right.
right? Because they know we love a good party,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? We picking on Southern and Grambling, but I go to the Southern game and I ain't go there. So what? You know what I mean? So this is so important that we utilize the early voting days, September 30th to October 7th, because every single thing in your life right now, if you jot down and write down the things that you are most concerned about, or most unhappy about, is governed by somebody who was elected somewhere. Right? It's important on who gets elected because, as one of my colleagues said, I think it was Rep. Hughes, the appointed seats are appointed by somebody who was elected.
Who was elected?
There's nothing that we do in our day-to-day lives that is not governed by some policy, regulation, laws, or something that someone elected somewhere was put in that seat to do. And whether you get out and use your vote that people died for or not, you're still voting. You voted, those who didn't get up and go vote for Hillary voted for Trump.
Yeah.
Those that sit home and don't get out and vote for Sean Wilson, you're voting for Jeff Landry.
Yep. Let me throw some more dates out there. You know, October 14th is Election Day. September 30th, we have a full week to do early voting. Before we do that, let's back up. September 13th, that's the last day that you can go register to vote in person. September 23rd is the last day that you can register online. The Go Vote status and apparatus is there for you at the Secretary of State's. That's the message we need you to take out. September 13th, September 23rd, September 30th, October 14th. Let's all decide that when October 14th gets here, we've taken care of our business of voting.
And don't just pay attention to governor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Representative LaFleur just mentioned Secretary of State. Powerful position
Yeah.
that really determines who has access to the voting booth. Attorney General
Yes.
determines if we're going to continue to fight culture wars for the next 4 years or if we're going to focus on people. The state treasurer, which deals with bond capacity for all of our municipalities. All of these races matter. All of them are consequential. So don't just pay attention to the governor's race. Pay attention to every seat on that ballot because they matter. And who we put in those seats, we will have to live with for the next 4 years.
But that's why we can't have this superficial, conversation around voting.
Right.
Right? We constantly tell people, just go. Make sure you do it. Right? But they get to the polls.
Don't know.
And they don't even know what some of these positions do and how it impacts our daily lives. And so really what I'm hearing y'all say is, listen, it's a two-way street.
Yep.
We have to educate our advocates. We've got to educate our community, but you all also have to help
Absolutely.
coming from the other way around, right? So I think that that's so critical. We talked about the gubernatorial election yesterday. So many issues, right, to talk about, and I want you all to kind of highlight some of the things for those that are in the room, like the things that we need to be thinking through. Some of that stuff may have gone over heads for our community, and I want to just hear from you all. What was your take on the gubernatorial
I'll focus
debate?
on the question surrounding abortion. Every single Republican talked about supporting the legislature and keeping the abortion laws the way they are right now, and they all referenced religion. Right? I think most people who know me know everything that I have in this world and life, I know where it came from. I'm immensely blessed beyond belief. But my religious beliefs should not have anything to do with what I'm doing when I'm sitting in there creating policy for the state of Louisiana. Because in the United States of this America, we have the right to choose what religion we want. You have the right to not to choose a religion. The God that I love and serve gives me the choice on what it is I'm gonna do. I'm gonna have to face him later, right? But they want to take that power from you based on their religious beliefs. That's not the America that we live in. It shouldn't be the America that we live in. The separation of church and state. Every single one of them referenced their faith and why they voted for that bill. Every single one of them referenced God when they talked about the exceptions for it. That has no business.
My biggest takeaway is if you watched, you listened to the responses. There shouldn't be a choice on who you vote for governor. Sean Wilson is by far the most qualified candidate in this race. And that was before he even decided to run for governor. I remember sitting in the House on the floor and they asked the secretary to come down and answer questions. Not a note in hand, to the penny. It didn't matter what district the question came from. he could tell them the status, the amount, to the penny, what was spent and what was left in that particular budget. There are few people that can do that. And if he could do that with an agency as big as his agency at that time, imagine what he can do as governor. I have no problem saying to you in this space what I learned and what I continue to learn every single time I watch a debate, I'm in a room with them debating, is that there really is no choice. And that the clear choice, if we want to keep our state going up and moving in a positive direction, is Sean Wilson.
And I indeed have to piggyback on what my great colleague said, not the fact that he's my frat brother. He's from the great city of Lafayette, Louisiana. The guy is very knowledgeable. We don't need on-the-job training.
No.
We need individuals that have been trained and have been conditioned to deal with the issues at hand. Notice the answers. His answers were eloquently presented. He didn't bobble on any of the issues because he knows what the issues are. He's worked alongside our great governor, John Bel Edwards, and I think John Bel Edwards has done a great job. Look at where we are. We have a surplus. We came in with a deficit. We fought battles across the line, and Dr. Wilson sat right next to him when we dealt with the hurricane issues, when we dealt with the road issues. I sat as transportation chairman and actually watched this guy worked, and as you know, in politics, it's being able to compromise. If you want to see the art of compromise, watch this individual operate. We have to send him to the governor's mansion, and we have to elect Dr. Wilson as our next governor. And that's my take on this.
Representative Hughes?
Yeah, well, I mean, look, anybody that watched the debate yesterday, there was clear contrast. But one of the things that was not only laughable to me yesterday, but was actually very proud of, several of the issues that some of the candidates decided to champion at the debate were issues that they went against at any particular time. All of a sudden yesterday we saw a lot of people being advocates for teacher pay.
Yes.
But when myself and Representative LaFleur and Chairman Pierre and Representative Boyd were on the House floor making a compelling case of why teachers needed a permanent pay raise, folks wanted to come up with fuzzy math on why that didn't need to be the case.
Right.
But now all of a sudden they're champions for teachers. When Representative LaFleur took the lead on early childhood education and restoring those dollars, and collectively we brought the budget to a halt at the end of the process
Yes.
and got the early childhood dollars restored, now all of a sudden we see champions for early childhood education.
Right.
So I just think you have to pay attention, folks all of a sudden championing causes that they did not champion when they had the chance to do so. And we had to fight much harder than we should have had to fight. And by the way, teachers did not get their permanent pay raise because the champions that want to be champions now were the roadblocks that stood in the way of teachers getting their permanent pay raise, because we tried to get that in the budget and we had the money to do so. But now our newfound champions block. So I thought there was some clear contrast.
Rep. Hughes, remember, it was like a joke to them.
Oh,
You know, our children's education, I don't know if you remember that, Rep. Hughes, like you could see pockets of them laughing at the struggle to get the money for the teachers.
and that's hard, people.
It's hard.
When you're fighting the good fight, to watch that and to see that daily while you're out there sending help, pray for us. Because we are representing you, so we got to act right. We don't always want to act right.
It's
But
hard.
we realize we need
Those
to, right?
who know me know it's very hard.
Oh, I have had to
Yeah.
take care of her a couple of times. Not today, sis. Not today.
So listen, yesterday we had a panel our creatives, our artists. And we had Dr. Phoebe on. I don't know if y'all remember this, but Dr. Phoebe was a historian. But she told us, she said she's not a historian by trade. But this is what she does. She actually is very, very interested in helping us understand our history, right? The importance. And I want to touch back on what something you said, Representative Boyd, around history. Black history was one of our breakout sessions.
Yes.
And one of the things that we talk about is how important it is to understand where we came from. When we talk about the foundation of this country, it was about, what was it? Money and religion.
Yes.
And religion was connected to what? Money, right? And so I go back to what you just talked about with the debate and how that was a central conversation.
Yes.
Right? And why it's important, whether it's abortion or all of those things are driven or connected to religion. What are you, just knowing the history of where we're coming, right? And we know that policy, we talked about Jan Moeller yesterday. He said, where we are today is because of bad policy. And we're gonna have to get ourselves out of where we are through policy, right? And so what is your approach? And I know we're wrapping up right now. I wanna hear from you just around your approach for, like we talked about, the next 5 to 10 years. What are our community, what is our advocates, what are they supposed to be prioritizing? Doing and what they're doing in 2024.
So what I said yesterday, what I focused on around there, again, about not focusing on the brush fires. So we heard a lot about CRT last year, book bans last year, and what I wanted parents and advocates to understand is that's huge, but recognize that it's already happening. I went to a high school in my district to register 18-year-olds to vote and 17-year-olds that would be 18, African-American school, all African-American children, as passionate as I've been here over the last few days, and I asked those babies how many of them had heard of Bloody Sunday. Not one had ever heard of it. So our children are already being deprived of our history. Mm-hmm. So I went to my friend who was the CFO of the school. I said, what is going on here? And she said they teach them to pass the LEAP test. So your children are not really being educated. So while fighting the critical race theory, fighting the book ban is very important, we got to pay attention to what's going on right now. Mm-hmm. They have situated these schools where they're depriving the children of their history right now. This is 17 and 18-year-olds that had never heard of Bloody Sunday, which is within our lifetime. And I say within our lifetime, including them too, because their grandparents are probably 58, 59, 60 years old, people who lived during that time and they had never heard of it, right? So without a history, without understanding the battle of what it took to get here, they can't appreciate it. Mm-hmm. They don't know the importance of voting. They don't even understand the people who have died for the sake of us having it. So our history is being erased right now before our eyes, even before anything with critical race theory or book ban. Yeah. It's being erased right now. If our next generation has no idea what it took to get here, they can't respect it, they can't champion it, they can't fight for it, they can't do any of that. And that's going to be determined by the people right here in this room, right now, making sure we don't leave this earth with our children not knowing the importance and the history that Black people have made in the United States.
Well, to Representative Boyd's point, if we don't get this election right, one of the first things on the chopping block is diversity, equity, and inclusion. And, the way Black history is taught will be erased. So we have to be mindful that kids may not even be able to learn about our history because there's an effort
at least not from school.
Absolutely.
Right?
Because there's an effort afloat to erase that. Now let me be vulnerable and blunt for just a moment, and I'm gonna try to be respectful how I say this. But your question, one part of your question was, what can advocates do? Black people and women in particular have been discriminated against since the birth of this republic. And I hear religion keeps coming up. I'm a devout Southern Baptist. My faith is deeply, deeply personal to me. It's got me through some very dark times. But the way we're allowing people to hide behind religion to advance discriminatory policies is unconscionable. And my religious friends that want to only interpret certain parts of the Bible, but not say ouch to the parts of the Bible that impact them, is unacceptable. And one of the darkest moments for me during my tenure in the legislature is seeing people of color and women supporting discriminatory policies.
Yes.
I respect everybody's religion. If you're against abortion, don't have one.
Yeah.
It's simple.
Yeah. Yeah.
The LGBTQ plus debates, and for people to say, well, I don't like that bill, but I gotta vote for it because if I don't vote for it, I won't be elected. Let me tell y'all something, ladies and gentlemen. This job pays me $16,800. I don't need this damn job, phantom, to sell my soul for re-election.
Yeah. Yeah.
My pastor lives in my district. I represent black folks. And one thing y'all need to know about black folks, a lot of us very conservative. And so a lot of my votes when it came to the LGBTQ plus community, a lot of my constituents did not understand and they did not agree with me on.
Yeah.
And as a leader, I said, let me take this opportunity to educate you as a black man why I voted the way I did. And as leaders, it is incumbent upon us to be leaders always, not just when it's politically expedient.
Yes.
And we have to be willing as leaders to take the tough votes and educate our constituents why it is not okay to discriminate against any class of people. Point blank, period.
Yes. I'd like to, a
Listen.
final thought, if I can.
And I know we got to wrap up.
Right.
I see Tyrone over here. He's telling me it's got to wrap up now. But let me say this. First of all, I want to thank each and every one of you. You guys give it up to them. Listen, we got so much just content and rich conversation today. But this can't be the only time we have this conversation with the people that are our representatives, right? We've got to keep going back. And they are going to keep coming back, right? And so we got some real good information to come out as an advocate, as a community, right? We know we got to vote, and we got to tell people why, right? We've got to do that. But we also have to understand the issues, and this goes back to something that Representative LaFleur said earlier. We got to know our stuff, because we've got to be able to arm them with the information that they need to carry the water. And it might not happen at the legislature, or it might have to happen at the court, but y'all, we can win, and we've got to do it together. So I want to thank all of you again for this. Y'all give it up to this panel. Thank you so much. And please stay for the rest of today's session.
The panel one more time. Now you all see why we partner with the caucus so closely. I want to thank Chairman Pierre while they take their picture publicly for his leadership and partnership as he leaves the legislature. Here's some quick housekeeping matters for those of us as we transition. The breakout sessions for the morning will kick off in 4 minutes at 10:40, and they will go to 11:20. All breakout sessions will take place on the second floor. During these breakout sessions, remember that panelists will only take questions from the moderators, and we strongly encourage you to engage with those panelists after. We will be back on schedule after the first breakout session. But remember to be back here for our afternoon plenary with CJ McCollum and Swin Cash. If you know other people that are not here today, please encourage them to come out. There's still time to register. Thank y'all so much.